handout.
Jeff, you're here for the CAB.
CAB. So I gave you a handout, which is 10 pages, culled from the comprehensive plan implementation schedule for the CAB. We have many things that we're asked to do, which is why I came up with this budget this year. And particularly the biggest item, item 4 on this little checklist, this draft budget, is the comp plan implementation. You want me to go over each line?
Well, let's do number 4. That's the biggest.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
What is it?
I kind of would like to go over that one.
Yeah, but what, should we start with the biggest one? You want to start with number 1? Any way you want to do
Whatever
it.
the board would like.
Do it Elizabeth's way.
I'm the liaison, sorry. Let's go with the big one, then we can step through the rest of the
Right.
order.
We only have 20 minutes. So if you open up, you will see that the Conservation Advisory Board, according to the comp plan, has many things to do. From line 347 to 356, particularly up to line 353. So those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items are about the critical environmental areas. I also gave you a handout from the DEC on how those are designated. They have to go through a secret process. The comp plan has identified many different areas of Rhinebeck that should be critical environmental areas. So legal documents will have to be drawn up, the secret process has to be done, mapping, filings with the state, filings with the county, filings with, in some cases, with the federal government.
Aren't all these mapped out already, these zones?
Yes, but these are very then specific maps because you have to get a lot
Pulled out of the...
pulled out, and you have to have a lot of data that goes along to substantiate your reason to have it as a critical environmental
So that's
area.
347 through 353.
Right.
Okay.
And then 356, adopt a green building guidebook.
That's good.
That's going to take time, effort. We'll have to consult with experts. I assume some people will want some kind of payment to sit down and speak with the town, speak with the CAB.
We have a moratorium and it's expiring, correct?
Right,
No, and, go ahead. Yeah, I have a comment about that.
right. So those items, you know, when I looked over what the DEC wanted, and particularly with all the legal paperwork that has to be done, the secret review, that's where I came up with the figure of $20,000. There are many critical environmental areas. You know, there was a pretty broad base of areas that the comp plan calls for. And, you know, like the landfill would be one. They want all the scenic roads to be critical environmental areas, the priority conservation habitats, the hamlet of Rhinecliff.
Who decides what the scenic roads are?
That was in the comp plan, but it's the town. It's at the
They're
discretion of the
enumerated?
town. Yeah, they had a few set aside. The only one designated now is River Road. But
And that's a county road.
right. So this would mean public meetings, public review. I think it would take a lot of time and effort to do this.
If we funded this, would we be able to say which we wanted to prioritize?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's why I'm here today. I mean, there's 10 pages of work that we're supposed to do.
Why is the CAB?
Well, this was before my time here, that when the comp plan went through the, whatever it was, 7, 9 years of review, this is what ended up in the comprehensive.
No, but did the comp plan say this was
All of
done
these
by
are-
the CAB?
Yeah. Now, there's 2 categories. There's one, development, drafting, and initiate action. And there's, you know, 4 or 5 pages of that. And then there is another role that we have, review and an administrative role. So I broke them out into two pieces. The first one, we're supposed to develop and initiate. So we would start from scratch. And those were those 4 or 5 pages there.
And these page numbers?
These numbers?
347, what is that?
Those numbers are part of the comp plan. The comp plan lists all of how to implement it and separate and puts attaches numbers here.
Okay, so these are page numbers.
They're not page numbers, it's a
No,
long list.
section.
Yeah.
But Jeff, it seems to me like you pulled out everything from the comp plan
that
And
just has,
correct me if I'm wrong, you pulled out things that would be, the CAB would have an impact or input on.
that's our responsibility.
Is that correct? Yes,
Yeah,
I
only
agree.
CAB stuff.
I agree,
It sets it aside as a separate category in the comp plan, it says CAB, and
right.
then it gives these little, whether
Right.
you're a review administrative or.
But obviously, many of these things aren't going to be done, it'll be on an ongoing basis,
Correct.
or they're already being done by other people at this
Correct.
point. And,
Well, that's why I brought the whole list to
Right.
the board.
and if
so that
you
can
tried to implement
prioritize.
all of this, $200,000 wouldn't be enough.
No, no.
So that's basically impossible,
Well, I don't
it
know.
seems to me.
Yeah, I don't know what, and like I said, it wasn't part of the conversations on what the town thought, how long it would take to implement, all the particulars of the comp plan. I don't know if this was something that the town discussed, decided is it a 5-year plan, is it a 10-year plan? Did they prioritize? I didn't see that in the comp plan. I couldn't find it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
The assumption was that we would start implementing, start making the plans and figuring out how to implement once we approved it, adopted it. But we never did.
So this is part of that.
Yeah,
So we're in catch-up mode with the comp plan.
so that's why I gave you this, this is everything that the CAB is asked to do, and then the town board could prioritize it, and do whatever the town board asks.
Choose several projects for the upcoming year.
Right.
It's $20,000, I assume, is for attorneys, planners, engineers, whoever you need to consult with.
Yeah, when I started at this on the
No, I'm just
CAC,
asking what $20,000 is
Yes.
for, professional services.
well, mainly for designating the critical environmental areas. That seemed to be what was left to us once we became a board. That was the next thing that was on the checklist of priorities for the Conservation Advisory Board to follow through on, and that was designating the critical environmental areas.
And so that's done through mapping, through public hearing, with planners,
It's a secret
some
thing.
attorneys, writing all the.
Public hearings,
yeah.
filings.
Is it 20,000 for a particular project?
One
Or
through
is it
seven.
just kind of a number out of the air and
No,
then
it's-
we choose what project?
Well, it's kind of like what Gina said, if you were to do everything, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, no, and I'm asking why did you come up with 20?
Well, just having my experience in what CEQA is about and the public hearings and then the legal.
But CEQA for what project?
Critical environmental areas, designating those.
Joe, the 1 through 7 on the first page, 347 through 353.
347 through what? 352?
353.
Those are the ones with
Right.
20,000?
Right.
So you take 349, for instance, designate Ferncliff Forest, Snyder Swamp, Burger Hill Park, Bly Swamp as critical environmental areas. So each one of those would have to go through seeker review. Each one of those would have to have public hearings. Each one of those, unless we can clump them together, I don't know.
Who's given you the advice for this? Who,
This is out of that complex.
yes, but who did you talk to about process?
It's on this other, what I gave you.
Certainly, didn't Burger Hill go through a seeker process
It's
before
not-
they were
it's-
designated?
Yeah, but it's not designated as a CEA. In the second handout I gave you, critical environmental areas, it goes through DEC. That's how it works. This is like a little how-to.
Oh, so this is another layer of protection.
Correct.
Do we have to pass local laws for this, or is this?
No.
what's-
No, you just have to file with DEC and go through their process. And this is this little handout, a couple of pages is the checklist of that process. How
So
to
the
do it.
process is, it's outlined right here. It just says it,
Yeah.
environmental impact studies, the whole thing.
Yeah, right. So that's why I came up with 20,000. So if we did 4 of these, 5 of these out of the dozens that we've been asked to do, it's gonna be at least $20,000. It could cost 2,000 or 3,000 per. Like you said, Gina, a lot of the work's already been done, a lot of the mapping's already been done. That's the easy stuff. I think it's the filings, the legal renderings, the back and forth to make sure the documents are all, tight and correct.
Should we go over the other expenses?
Yeah, sure.
Do you see the other copies of your,
No,
do you have another copy?
no, but I can make one for you.
What's the amount?
Yeah, do you mind?
what's,
The general expenses, that's mostly copies of maps, filings. Maps can be very expensive, they can be $20 a piece. We have some very large projects that are coming through the planning board, and I think they're going to be pretty big public hearings.
You're talking about some of the larger development.
Yes, and we have to do, I
the
mean,
developer doesn't give us sufficient copies, so you get a copy?
no, these are maps that we make. They don't have access to that GIS software, so the town makes the maps. Some of this could be covered through escrow, but there hasn't been a formal process for that. Right now, the CAB has been bearing the cost of making the maps. Because the planning board and the CAB and the town board haven't come up with a process on how to charge back to the applicant.
Have you looked at the new Municity software that we're getting?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, because
I think it's going to be
there's a
helpful
GIS
component.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it should be able to, ideally, we should be able to track any action on any parcel.
That's great.
And
Building,
integrate.
zoning, and
So,
So
conservation.
these are large blow-ups that, you know, we do for presentation purposes, mainly for public benefit. We do small little black and white maps and little color maps that get circulated within the agencies, but they're not appropriate for the public hearings.
well, one thing I think that a lot of these disbursements could be put under different
Yes.
categories and budget lines,
Yes.
rather than the CAB going from $2,000 or whatever we've
$800.
always been, $800, and we bumped you up to $900,
Right.
and then going to $30,000. I
Right.
mean, there's just, we've got to figure out
No, I
how
agree.
it's really going to shake out.
No, I-
So go ahead.
Let's go down the list.
Yeah.
So that's, general is basically copying.
Well, yeah. I mean, right now, nobody on the CAB is putting in for expenses.
Okay, what the clerk, how much
Well,
hours?
the clerk is, we were hoping that we'd at least come away from this budget process with a clerk.
How many hours? What are you talking
We
about?
had approved 2 hours a week, some 6 months ago or so. We still haven't filled the position. And, you know, frankly, our board is swamped with filings, and we very much need a clerk.
What
You're
would
talking 2 hours a week.
That's on the minimum. And it really, a lot of it's dependent, like with planning, with zoning, on how many applications are coming in. Right now, it's
How many
very
hours,
good.
the planning board has 11 hours a week for clerk?
I don't know what the planning board and clerk is.
Yeah.
I mean, this budget.
11 or 12, yeah.
What's public education, 5,000?
In the comp plan, there's a dozen or so public education programs we're supposed to put forward, teach people about their septic systems, about, you know, protecting certain natural environments in their backyards. The comp plan asks us to do videos, put them on Panda. So if we were to do these, you know, aside from our time writing and producing them, we'd have to hire professionals to at least videotape them if they're going to go on Panda, to do the brochures.
These are certain sections of the comp
Yes.
plan,
Yeah,
and are those listed here in the?
yeah, they're all on those 10 pages.
Okay.
Well, we can go to 5, equipment, computer upgrades. I think every couple of years, every computer's going to need a suite. They're going to need a new, you know,
I'm with Elizabeth on this one, I think that's done.
I think we're covered, but what do you need?
well, usually you need some kind of new virus software.
What are you working on now, your laptop? Oh, the laptop?
It's
The
the
laptop.
laptop, right. And I know that when we migrated things from the old laptop to the new laptop, that was like $300. So I don't know what, you know, the current cost would be to just sweep it, clean it up, consolidate, put the new software in there. Esri, I have to research that. We have a mapping contract that has to get renewed. I think it's coming up. Shelley knows about that. I think that's coming up. It's about $1,000 to renew it. And we'd also get upgrades for that. Schools, that's a wish list of ours. There's lots of training that CAB members can go to all over the state. PACE has some great training. Up in Albany, DEC has some great training. You know, usually these things are, you know, $200 a person or, you know, $50 a person, you know, plus expenses to get up there. I think it'd be great if everybody on the CAB can get trained at least with seeker process, you know, with, you know, understanding zoning and
Did
planning.
you guys go to the seeker
No, I wasn't
in
able
Millbrook?
to.
Yeah, 'cause that was like $10.
Right, right. And then mapping again. Mapping is a big deal. And if we were to do all the maps that the comp plan asks us for, it would be $5,000. And I called the county planning office, and just for an example, and asked them to draw a map for the town. And they wanted to charge the town $100 an hour. It's like $107 an hour. That seems to be the going rate for maps. A lot of the maps I can draw myself, but some of them have to be customized.
Well, you know, this raises a question, I'm sorry to get in, but, you know, going back to the escrow issues, why aren't we then hiring a map maker at that cost and charging it back to the escrow?
Yeah, I think some of it that goes through planning and zoning, you know, we can charge back, even if it's a town person doing it, we should charge it
But
back.
we can only charge what we pay for it. We can't make money on an escrow cost.
Correct.
It's my understanding, so,
Correct.
you know, if there's a designated person who does it.
What
And
kind
there
of
are
maps
maps,
are these then?
there are like biking maps, hiking maps, stream maps, critical
Wetland
environmental
maps.
area maps that the comp plan asks to have posted in town hall, village hall, the libraries, the schools. And when you make those kinds of maps, they're about $40 a piece. You blow them up, about that size. You know, they're put on hardboard, so they're durable, like, you know, there's maps around here. So if you make 30 or 40 of those, you know, at $30, $40 a piece.
But they are also posted online
Yeah, yeah.
now, okay.
I mean, I would prefer to have most of this information available online, but not everybody chooses to find this information online. If we had a page online that came up on the home page, on the Town of Rhinebeck homepage, I think that would cut a lot of our mapping costs down. We'd probably do it in half. If it was easy, if it was like just click here and get the map, if you didn't have to search for the map, I think we could, you know, save a lot of time and money.
There's a lot of new tech things coming for the next year, so I think that will help with a lot of this. But thank you, Jeff.
What we, just for what Jeff had given us, I put half of it in the budget. So, because figuring the time that it would take for the first year, you know, not getting our game plan down ahead of time, you have to figure that out. So that's what's in there now. You got basically half of the request. There also is another concern with this, that much of this work is part-town, even though this is in the general fund, because the comp plan is part-town and not general fund. Doesn't apply to the village.
Right.
Right.
So we may have to, if we decide to go ahead with this, we're going to have to move some of it.
Why is it in this area, and why does the OSC have it in this area?
You can
We
have
just
some,
created other,
yeah, it's, you know, that's where it would logically be, but that's not the way this is, the work that we should probably do a capital project or some kind of a project for this, for implementation.
that's a better idea.
So if you went into review and administrative role, which just starts in line 28, and you just read a couple of these, there are masses amount of work. That's why I said I don't know how the comp plan was written, but even like 56, enact protective regulations that restrict development on ridge lines and other sensitive environmental features.
I'm sorry, where are you reading off?
The review administrative role,
Which page is
a couple
that?
pages in, sorry they're not marked the pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth page.
Okay,
56, just as an example.
yeah, but I mean, and I think Bruce is right. You know, you've got a ton of stuff here. I think you gotta get up to speed, get your process down, and then pick X amount of projects a year.
Well, yeah, that's why I put everything forward, and the town board, you know, should put some thought into what you might think are the most important things for us to work on. We've already decided amongst ourselves as CAB that the critical environmental areas, designating those are a priority, and we should do that.
Which number is that?
That's the first page, the first 5 lines.
Oh, that's
347.
47 to 53.
Right.
These are the 7 items you try to achieve within the 2014.
Correct.
So,
I think we gotta read it and study it and think about it.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well,
It's a lot of
Well
good work.
presented,
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. Thanks for your help. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your work.
Well, you're welcome.
Thanks for not calling me today.
Hey,
You're welcome.
you guys have Heath or Mayor?
I'll just got a copy.
Oh. You on fire?
Good evening, folks.
Evening.
We know you're in your budget deliberation process, so, I've been meeting with Heath and with Heath to discuss police and fire contract for the year. And, they're both going to give you some information tonight. And, we can talk about the contracts for the upcoming year.
First one, hey, must start there. So basically what I'm going to do is talk to you about the contract between the town and the village. I was actually looking to get some information from you first to see if you were leaving the line item for the patrol the same or making it less, or you know where you stood with that. That's
No, in the tentative budget you're talking about, or
In
the
the most
preliminary?
recent.
The tentative budget was flat. I don't know.
Right, I think we cut 5,000.
About 5,000 out of it.
Yeah, because you haven't used,
There was a little bit of a little extra in there towards the end of the year.
pardon me?
There's going to be a little extra in there towards the end of the year, the end of this fiscal year.
Well, I don't know about this fiscal year, we're talking about 2014.
Right.
Right, but there
So
was
you're
some
cutting-
left because we front-loaded it or end-loaded it, whatever that's called.
Okay.
So they would have extra in case they need it for
For
city
some events and
costs.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was just trying to ascertain. All right, so basically I want to talk about the contract between the village and the town. I didn't make copies, but I can. What I do is I went back to some old files and found the last time the contract was negotiated between the village and the town for rates was in 2004. And what I did was I found from the old records from Dennis McGuire, when he was supervisor, the rates were adjusted for a 3-year contract in 2004, 2005, and 2006. Those rates in 2004 were established, let me just break it down for you. For the court hours, so if an officer came, it was $35 an hour in 2004. 2005, it was $37 an hour, and in 2006, it was going to end at $40 an hour. And that's where it's been since 2006. And for the vehicle patrol, in 2004, it was $45 an hour.
45, yeah.
In 2005, it was $48 an hour, and in 2006, it was $50 an hour. And that's where
Will
it's...
he have a copy of this?
You should, because this was signed off by Dennis McGuire at the time, and between...
But we don't now. Should I get a copy of
I
it?
can make copies, I just didn't
Okay.
open up.
Why don't we do it after?
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be good.
yeah,
Because
so...
I can't write that fast.
Oh, no problem, so I'll slow down. So in 2006, the vehicle patrol was for $50 an hour, and that's where it stayed, that's where it's been since, so it hasn't gone up at all. What I do want to talk about is also the federal mileage rate. And right now, in the current contract, it's set, we use the federal mileage rate, which is right now 56.5 cents. And we do want to add some language to the contract that would say, basically, if the federal government were to change, the IRS would change the federal mileage rate, whether it go up, we would have the ability to charge that rate, and if it would go down, we would have the ability to lower that rate.
Within our budget year?
Within that year, correct. So that's really one of the things that we're looking to change. So if the IRS changes it in the middle of the year, we'd like to go with whatever the IRS
Have
says.
they ever lowered it, Pete, to your knowledge?
We did.
Yeah, I think it has gone down.
Has-
I just don't, I couldn't tell you what year it has, but it has gone up and down. Right now, like I said, the federal rate is 56.5 cents. So that's what we would like to add some wording in that and give it to you and have both the town and village approve that. If that's okay with you.
And has the village approved this yet, Mayor?
No.
And when's it up to you guys?
Well, what we do is negotiate with you through your budget process. Our budget process doesn't begin until springtime. So it doesn't affect us as far as our budget. We need to negotiate with you so we're prepared once we get into our next year.
Do you charge the village for mileage? How does
I
that?
don't charge the village, no.
Oh,
Village
okay.
taxpayers pay the
Village
expense.
taxpayers pay for that,
Oh, okay, so there is no mileage charge?
not for the village, no.
You know, last year was 55,000. I think we went down a couple of years. We can't combine this with, we're combining some of the court costs.
Right.
But
You're
really,
separate line items.
we're paying 55 grand. That was, we budgeted for 55,000 last year. And this year it's budgeted, well, right at this point, I brought the tentative budget flat, 55, now it's down to 51. So, I mean, really, we're budgeting for something, but, you know, who we spend that money on is up to you, up to us, with however we want to spend it. I mean, what Sergeant Dunn is talking about, of course, is hourly rates, mileage rates, and so on, which you can't get away from. So, you know, we're not negotiating really bring up or down our budget line. We're kind of negotiating.
So we're kind of
Our
saying if
hourly
we say 51 is your, 51,000 is in your budget, it's up to you to determine how many miles you can patrol at that
Right,
rate.
what happens is usually I take
Is that
feedback
what
from.
you're saying, Tom?
I'm saying, he's talking about, I mean, you're not going to get, this is a crazy bargain for police service.
Yeah,
If we had our own police department, you know, we'd be having $1 million budget line. You know, I don't want to say that, you know, publicly open, but.
See, the way it works is you folks determine how you want us to cover.
Right.
And then we bill you, and it's up to you to monitor the usage of your dollars. And at the end of the year, say you get to November and your budget is used up, then you have no police coverage for the rest of the year unless you make an emergency appropriation.
Right.
You know, we don't monitor your expenses as far as mileage and those types of things. We just bill you for what the coverage we provide, and you let us know how you want that coverage
So
provided.
really, some of the costs are going up, so we'll have less coverage unless we approve more money.
All right, but I assume that we appropriate a certain amount of money. You're figuring that that should last for 12 months.
Right, and it
And it always has.
Right, it should last for 12 months.
Yeah.
But that depends also on, there are certain things that we get on a town, or working town. We get a case, we've had burglaries and larcenies, and you've seen through the patrol sheets that I give you,
Right.
you'll see officers working on certain cases.
Right, we understand it could be
Right.
emergencies.
Sure, right. Yeah, so long as you understand that amount of money, you know, it only goes so far. And so we're not looking to raise the other rates. We're talking since 2006, so that's a considerable amount of time. And when you think about it, back in 2006, now we're in 2014, you know, between, just name it, oil changes, gasoline, you know, on and on, all that stuff,
Pension,
insurance.
healthcare.
Union, you know,
Yeah.
negotiation raises, you know, uniform maintenance, bulletproof, all that stuff is included, which the village pays for. So all of those costs go up. So we're getting close to having to renegotiate. What I'm saying is that we're gonna leave those rates where they are this year. All right, and we're asking just to make sure we put wording in there for the federal mileage rate. In case it goes up, we have the ability to charge that federal mileage rate if it goes up. So.
When do they determine that, do you know?
Usually in the beginning of the year, because there have been times where they've done it mid-year. That's up to the IRS, federal government. They will change it, but I can't tell you when they change it all the time.
And that's the same amount that a taxpayer can deduct for wear and tear on a vehicle.
Exactly, depending on what your
You're
job
talking
is,
about.
there's different rates, exactly.
It's a reimbursable rate.
So, in my observation, the nature of having the village police do this, even though you're talking about $1 per person per patrol officer on per hour, there's always at least one village patrol on too, right?
Right.
So in the case of an incident where you might need more than one person, you're going to have somebody on anyways that we're not paying for to back that
Exactly.
circumstance up. So, you know, it's just a unique situation for us to have because, you know, it's almost a collaboration thing in itself that we're using the resources in the village, extra resources that don't cost, even though we're
Right.
paying for whatever you.
Right. And for instance, same thing, we don't get the running away back, and started in the village of Dresden, which also had a town car on it, which you guys helped with. So again, it's the collaboration part of it. You know, that one car was you guys, you know, helping us out, you know, with the town part of it. So that's always going on, you know, those kinds of things. So.
Yeah, and if, you know, I guess, I don't think you guys dispute it, but, you know, if anybody does, just, you know, take any police department or any town, it's a huge expense on the community, and we have the benefit of being able to contract the village, so.
So that's what we're looking to do. What I'll do is I'll run it by the village attorney, Rich Olson, have him change the wording, and then we'll go to the village board and the mayor, have them approve it, and then of course it's multi-year for you guys to look at it and approve it and sign before the first of the year, hopefully.
Thank you.
Good? Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
So I'm going to address the fire department contract for coverage, which comes up first of the year. I did give you a little handout there. I just wanted to analyze and see how we came up with the number in the past. And the number, it's not on here, but the current contract for this year is $140,500. So I wanted to see where that number came from. And because, you know, we are a volunteer organization, you don't have hourly rates. There's no real way to calculate the cost of it. You know, what one call out to the edge of the town versus a call here in the village actually
I'm
costs.
sorry, where'd you get what'd you say, 140?
Yeah, that's not on this, that page, but that's the contract that was executed for this current calendar year. 140,500.
Thanks.
So if you look at the call history, and the reason why it goes back to 2010 is that's when they started using that format to break it out between the village and the town. So those are the best numbers we have to work with. Usually it's you know, pretty heavy on the town side versus the village, with the exception of 2012. So you know, we should probably, as we're moving forward, continue to look at the history and any trends. The easy part to look at down the second graph there, or table, is the operational budget, and that's just a line item in the village budget for the fire department, which is $233, and then back in another section where they have the equipment bond payments, comes up almost $80,000. And currently there's some separate payments between the village, or the town pays for some of the bonding. There was something for the ambulance and one of the trucks, but I lumped them together here. And then the part that's probably was not looked at in the past was the administrative cost, which would include the biggest portion would be the building. We have to maintain a building. The fire department takes up a big portion there, and then including you know, the village attorney, the village clerk, et cetera, et cetera. So the total cost to run that fire department for this past year, current year, comes up to about $355, and costs are certain to go up. So we put in the 2% for the, which would match the tax cap to bring it to that bold number of 361, and broke it out strictly by the percentage of call volume, which brings you down all the way to the bottom, which would be the proposal for this upcoming year, 187,953.
So you're proposing to increase it by $47,000 what we pay, is that the bottom line?
Roughly?
Yes, roughly.
That's a pretty big increase.
Correct.
You're right.
Huge.
Right.
Do you see any areas of potential savings or reductions or?
I would probably see it probably the other way. Probably costs will continue to go up to operate, you know, with equipment and the mandates. We have some, you know, things that are pending now, things that come down from the fire protection regulations. So for instance, right now we have a truck that has tires on it that are 21 years old, something like that. And the new guidelines that, regardless of the visual inspection, they're supposed to be replaced every 7 years. So you have these expenses that are just kind of hidden there and going to be kicked along. So, you know, I would expect that, you know, on an annual basis, come back with, and the number may adjust.
Is the $47,000 increase, is that because your expenses have gone up, or is it because there's a shift between the town and the village in terms of who pays what? Or is it both?
We only added in a 2% increase over prior years, so it's more, not even so much a shift of who gets the services, it's more a closer look at who gets the services.
Joe, what I would add to this is that for years, the fire department was just run.
I'm sorry, for years, what?
For years, it was just run. And it was never looked at, there was never an analysis done of what the service was that was provided to the town and what the service was that was provided to the village and how that all broke out. And in 2009, once Wayne had run for office and became a board member, I sat down with him and based on his experience as a fire chief, had a discussion with him. I said, you know, we get a call report, but we have no idea what the breakdown is between town and village. We have no idea what the expense breakdown is between town and village. So we move forward at that time. And when you look at these figures, you see the tracking for the last few years. And that's something we had established is we want to track the call volume, whether it be rescue squad or fire department, and how many calls are in the town and village. So with that said, that's part of the answer to your question.
Because part of that is
the other
shift.
thing,
Probably most of it is the shift, or?
I wouldn't say most of it. One of the big things that we're facing as a volunteer fire company, and in a way it really bothers me because we are a volunteer fire company, and we're not a high volume, in the broad sense of the word, we're not a high volume. For a small municipality we are, but we're not a major city fire department. And we face the same mandate responsibility that a major city fire department does. For example, this year, it's been mandated that we have to have bailout gear for any interior firefighter, of whom we have 30 of those right now in the Rhinebeck Fire Department. So that if they're at a second story and they need to get out of the building because they can't escape through a stairway, that they can bail out through the window. It's going to cost the village of Rhinebeck alone this year about $18,000 to purchase the equipment and train these individuals. We don't have any choice in this. And again, this is where we, all as municipal officials, really need to address with Albany the fact that they put a 2% tax cap on it, but they haven't given us any significant mandate relief. All our breathing apparatus that the fire company uses, 7-year life expectancy. They force us to test this equipment every year, and when you test breathing apparatus, what you do is you overfill it and you stress it. Okay, so you're actually wearing the equipment out faster by testing it. What they tell us we have, we're mandated to do these tests every year, and then we're mandated to replace it 7 years. So a lot of these things that, you know, I think there's a very powerful lobby for the fire equipment manufacturers that gets this legislation put into place. We as the municipality and the taxpayer as the end result have to absorb all the costs. So the answer to your question is two-part in my mind. It's because we never did a careful analysis of the breakout between the town and the village, and the costs had incrementally risen exorbitantly because of all of this mandated.
When do you determine the fire department budget? Is that part of your budget
part of our
process?
budget process.
Yes.
Yep.
What you're proposing to us now is blows our tax cap out of the water.
I understand that, but we also as village officials shouldn't expect our village taxpayer to subsidize the fire coverage for the town residents.
Well, it's just a lot, it's a lot to take in.
I understand.
You know.
Don't
We
you
were
have a
shocked.
separate line item that, for the collection for the fire protection district?
Yeah, but the contract is part of, we negotiated, so it affects our tax cap. That's the protection district. How many parcels are in the town?
3,000,
No, not the total town.
I don't know that answer.
I want to know how many the village fire, the Rhinebeck Fire Department covers in the town. How
you
many
want to know
parcels?
the parcels
I
between
don't
the
know that
village and the town.
No, I want to know, I know it's
Yeah.
2,557 in the,
But how many Hillside has, how many Rhine Cliff has, how many?
yeah, I want to know how many Rhinebeck has.
Right.
We don't
maybe
base our
assessor's office.
decision on that, Bruce, as far as the number of parcels. What we base it on is the call volume and the expense that we incur. I think for your budget process, it's an appropriate figure because you need to figure out the cost for that district that we're providing the coverage for.
Yeah,
But for us, it's a matter of recouping our expense.
Yeah, I got that, and, you know, the rates are different for the 3 different districts.
Yeah, that's on that second page
It's on the
there.
second
I got that from John, I think, that I thought you did collect a separate for the fire protection district,
Yeah, we did.
and then one for Radcliffe and one for Hillside.
Yeah, we did, but I wanted to know, so I
Okay.
could compare efficiency basically.
Yeah.
How many parcels are in your part of the district?
I don't have that. Probably the assessor's office could get you there, I would guess.
I think we have it from our file from last year too.
I'm not aware that we have, or I certainly have never seen fire department budget. Could we get from the village,
Sure.
what,
Budget, public knowledge.
yeah, what,
Go right on the website, you'll find it.
But if we can get the village clerk maybe to give us for the last 4 or 5 years what you've appropriated for the fire department, that would be useful.
Maybe 3 would be good, and 4 or 5.
You know, it's not that hard to do. It's just a number, they have that, and they can give it on the sheet.
All you need to do is call Lisa and ask her to provide it. She'll be more than happy to do that.
Well, it's gonna be, this is gonna be rough.
Right. What about the ambulance? Have we figured we're still supposed to pay something for the ambulance?
That's included in the number, all for EMS and the fire.
The contract specifies $7,500 per year in payment for ambulance.
Right.
But we didn't have it in last year, so even though we paid it, it's considered a loan, so we have 15,000 in this year.
Oh, okay, we do have money in there for it. And these numbers you're giving us tonight, the 187,000, that does not include the ambulance, or does it?
It does.
It includes the 7,500
Yes.
for it.
That's included in the equipment bond payments. I think there's 3 pieces of equipment, 2 trucks and an ambulance that are we're currently paying on.
This is 2 trucks and
Which is 70,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's their payment, but I'm saying that one could say it's really not 187,000 increase because you ought to separate out the 7,500 because that was a separate deal. That's the only.
It's in the current contract, it's broken out what the budget line item is and how much the equipment purchase for the trucks was and how much the ambulance was.
Good?
Great, thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all we have, right, but for budget All right. Don't eat ya. Good evening. Today is October 28th, 2013. It's a regular town board meeting. We just completed a budget workshop, and we'll begin with the pledge for the regular meeting. Do you want to share mine?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And go Cardinals.
And what?
Go Cardinals.
Get out. Great. Where'd Bruce go?
Trying to find one so I could follow along. You took mine.
Sorry.
What do you need,
It's got my agenda, stole my agenda.
this is not pretty.
Can you share it?
No, that's okay.
All right, anyways, any announcements from the board?
Any announcements?
Any announcements? One thing
The only couple things. One on workforce housing. We still have units available in the gardens where the price will be subsidized by the grant from the developers. So if you know anybody who might qualify, and that's an income below the Dutchess County median income, 100% of it, and they're interested in a condominium in the Gardens. They can get the information from our town clerk, who will refer them to Hudson River Housing. Elizabeth, I guess the other thing we ought to mention the grants that were
Yes, we were-
gotten. Why don't you go first?
We
Yours
were,
is the larger one.
we did very well with the county consolidated shared service grants. I wrote a grant for almost $72,000 for new technology infrastructure for the town and the village hall, and we were officially noticed last week that we received it. So we'll start implementing that. It's huge. It's going to go a long way to get us into the new millennium. We'll have all new hardware, software, a central server that we'll be sharing with the village. We'll be networked together. We'll be able to realize efficiencies by sharing work and data. And I will be meeting with our Northeast Computer Systems in the next week. And we should have a contract with the county, which we'll have to have Warren go over for us and our supervisor sign, and we'll get going. We should have it done hopefully by early next year, mid next year.
The village sign that also? Is that something that we share with them?
We're sharing it. Yes,
So-
I wrote the grant to include them as well.
Is the mayor involved in signing that too?
No.
How much of that grant is for village hardware? Approximate.
Approximately, I'd say 30% of the grant, but we share a lot of stuff. The central server will live here, and we're also getting this great program called Laserfish, which is a data recognition scanner that will be able to scan all of our documents and sort them. So it's like an online filing system that will live in our cloud. So a lot of this stuff we are getting for ourselves, and we'll share with them, and everybody's getting all new hardware, computers.
So basically, though, you did the work on that, and
Yes.
village is getting a benefit
Yes,
from
it's
that.
a nice shared service.
And it's going to,
$49,000.
No, this is something that it's a win-win for both of us.
and for zoning and planning as well.
Yes.
No, that's a separate
yeah, it's
grant. Don't steal my thunder, please.
I'm not stealing
you know,
anyone's
steal
thunder
my
because
thunder.
it's all going to be integrated. It's going to be really, and that leads to yours, Joe Gill.
We also got a grant. We were with a number of other communities, and this is for software for primarily for the building department, but it will be useful for zoning and even for the tax assessors. It will take each parcel and be able to record all history with respect to that parcel, as if it moves through the planning board, if there's a building permit, certificate of occupancy, violations, it will be all in one place. And this is software that we were considering buying ourselves before this grant opportunity came up. We had received bids, and indeed we were pretty close to awarding a contract, and it would have cost us about $25,000. So this on top of the grant that Elizabeth got, I think we're pretty close to $100,000 in grants, so this was good news.
And it's really going to make a huge difference in zoning and planning. It seems like in this day and age, it wouldn't be a difficult thing to have a property's history all in one place. But that's not where we are today. You have to look piecemeal for every single parcel, and it's really, really difficult, and things fall through the cracks. And this is going to help move us into the next century, as Elizabeth says.
We're in the next, we're well into the next century, so we're going to be.
But we're going to catch up.
Yes, we are.
You got something, Bruce?
Yeah.
For those of, I won't call them residents, but inhabitants that don't use computers and technology and couldn't care less about zoning, the dog park will be opening, having a grand opening this Saturday. 11 o'clock at Stone Church.
So come and bring your dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. That's
keep them on leash.
a nice realization of a project you've been working hard on.
and we'll put a page on the website and all the forums
We'll
and
invite
everything.
all our friends.
Oh.
That's
Will there be
great.
refreshments other than dog food?
Dog biscuits.
We have some wild herbs and spices that you can find yourself, and
Raise at your own risk.
Bruce, I inspected it on Saturday, and it looks like two entrances or two different parts. Is that one for small dogs and the other for
no,
big dogs?
one's for dogs and one's for politicians.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 30 pounds separate them,
Oh, okay.
above and below.
All right. You guys done having fun? I mention it every once in a while. Don't forget to reapply for the STAR program. That's the basic STAR. Typically, you don't reapply for that, but this year, New York State requires that we reapply for that by the end of the year. So don't forget to reapply for STAR, basic STAR.
Can I make a request that we move the transfer station discussion up since they're here?
Sure.
So,
Where were they? I think they were next anyways, weren't they?
You see how uncomfortable I look right here?
You look snug, yeah.
Well, let's approve the minutes first from October
Yeah.
15th and October
Yeah,
21st.
I wanted to request it.
Motion and second.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Both are so moved. So item E is presentations. We can go right to the Welsh transfer station. You guys, I need you to speak at the microphone.
You get to go up front. Look, I asked Vinnie to come because the board had asked that I do that because there's residents who are asking for additional time during the week.
Just since the season shut down, we've been getting, I speak for myself, I've
I
gotten
have as well.
maybe 10, 12, a dozen requests. You know, they noticed that the day's missing, I think September, when did we start it? So they've asked if we could reinstate the one during the week session. as
One
well.
weekday, and I don't think, my people weren't beholden to any day.
Well, they liked it staying the same, but I think there's
Okay.
flexibility.
Right, I've also got a whole bunch of requests.
Historically, well, Jim will tell you, historically, there's been 50 residents or 50 users of the facility on Thursday.
Good evening. My name is Jim Constantino. I'm General Counsel for Welsh Sanitation. Vincent Nunziato is the sales manager, and Scott Kale is the foreman who manages the Town of Rhinebeck transfer station. We understood that you were interested in extending the additional hours during the year. We've got some statistics that we'd like you to consider as we have this discussion, and I thought it might be helpful. We looked at the calendar year so far, 39 weeks for 2013, and that includes, starting May 1, the service that's provided on Thursdays. So Saturday service is from 7 to 2. Thursday service from May 1 to the end of August is from 4 to 7 in the evening. During the 39 weeks, it's an average, it was 173 customers.
I'm sorry, 170 what?
3 customers per week. What's interesting is that amount is fairly stable, even during the what we call the summer season. What happens is we are less busy on a Saturday and people elect to come on a Thursday. The average amount of material collected weight-wise, and we break it down between garbage, municipal solid waste in a bag, and C&D, construction debris, junk, and miscellaneous bulk waste. It's 2.95 tons of municipal solid waste. That's folks bringing a bag in, garbage, household. And 0.68 tons of construction debris or bulk waste, which we collect all the various waste streams. Recycling is free, so that's, I didn't bring a statistic on that, but
Those are weekly numbers.
that's weekly. Our average disposal cost just to get rid of the material, runs about $310 a week. Our revenue, because we're paid by item or by the bag, runs about $700 a week. The differential is $400 a week. Including portal to portal, our employees are paid from the time they leave the depot and to get up to the transfer station. You're talking about 13 hours of labor a week. Saturday and even Thursday is premium time for us. It ends up being overtime. The issue here, so we're running a disposal rate of about 45%. So that's money in, money out. And it leaves us a total of, again, about $400 a week to cover all of our costs to operate the facility. We use a full absorption costing method, which includes, there's administration, there's various other aspects to the service that we provide, supervision. I'm not including the fact when managers have to show up, and so on and so forth. So the issue isn't providing the ability to provide the service. We're happy to. The issue is usage. You folks, certainly you, Bruce, you've been around I think most familiar with this as far as I know. If you think about the deficits you were incurring when you were running the facility, but your usage was much higher. So one question is, why are only 173 people a week coming into the facility? What's driving that? It's very simple. If you bring one bag of garbage in a week, just one bag, you get in your car, drive to the facility, bring your recyclables, drop them off. At $4 a bag, it is 4.33 weeks in a month. It's going to cost you $17 a month. You could call Scott Kale. He will bring you 2 carts, one for garbage, one for recycling. He will pick it up every week at the curb for $19 a month. $2 difference. That's one bag a week. Now, if you bring 5 bags a month, so let's suppose one weekend you bring 2 bags, you're at $20. You're paying more to get in your car, drive to the facility, dump it off, than you would having us pick it up with us providing the cans every week. And we think, given the increase in the curbside collection that we've experienced over the last year and a half, we think a lot of the people who are using the facility are now electing curbside service. Obviously, if you drop off, it's based on the amount you throw out. You throw out more, your curbside service would go up. But I'm talking about small users. And so it's going to be very difficult to compete, to attract traffic to the transfer station if the service can be provided for less cost at the curb. The ability to get rid of bulk wastes and construction debris and to have the facility, we think, is very valuable to the town. There are certainly people who like to bring their garbage there on a weekly basis. We understand that. We like providing the service. But the problem is, to extend the hours, we don't think usage is going to increase. We don't. Because what we've seen, as I've told you, is it's fairly flat. Folks that would normally come on a Saturday, maybe it's a little more convenient for them to come on a Thursday. So our Saturday traffic declines a bit, and we end up with, as Vincent noted, about 50 customers coming on a Thursday on the average. So our question to you is, how do we make ends meet? And
did you notice any increase when the village gave up the responsibility or lost the capability of being able to manage trash on their own? Because the vast majority of the people that complained to me were people who live in the village that lost their trash pickup. So did you notice any increase, or were you aware that the village had lost their,
Yes, ma'am.
and you saw no difference at all? Because that's who I heard from.
That's interesting. We did see, if you go through the village now, you're going to see what I hope is a predominant presence of Welsh sanitation carts providing curbside service. What's interesting is that, and Scott, I think you're most familiar with the statistic, the vast majority of users in the village are $19 a month, one bag a week type customers. And while, in fact, and we made that service available to them, again, as a small, price-wise, a light user, it's very difficult to understand why you would put the trash in your car and drive to the transfer station when you can have the service provided curbside. But the answer is yes, we did see an uptick. Yes, and I would tell you the majority were the $19 a month users, the small users, small household users.
26, excuse me. 26 additional village customers. We had the attendant speak to people that came in.
Okay.
26.
26 users. But I hope that answers your question. But we didn't necessarily see, interestingly enough, it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't know how reliable the sample is. A big drop in service at the transfer station. If those were they all folks, why would they be coming to the transfer station? They were getting village service, so we weren't replacing customers that were coming to the village. I mean, excuse me, they were using village service. They weren't going to go to the transfer station.
I spent some time there this past weekend. Most people come in with cars full of bags. I didn't see very many people with one bag. They have boxes, styrofoam. One guy came back 3 different times. I guess you've had a change in policy on electronics this past weekend, so people were coming with electronics. But it is a problem for us because your men there, most people think they're wonderful. That's my observation. They're helpful, they're friendly, they're outgoing, and although some people still miss Nancy and Tom and say that, I think most people are pleased with your service. So I compliment you,
Thank you.
On that.
By the way, and Bruce knows this, we offered Nancy a position to stay on. Well, we couldn't compete with, I think she's in Florida these days, so we couldn't compete with retirement. But we did want her to stay on.
Sometimes grandchildren have a hold on people.
That happens.
I quite understand it, but we do get these complaints, and that's why we invited you here to see if there's something that can be done. I think in the winter time, you open up at 7 in the morning. I don't think there's much traffic at 7 o'clock in the morning. You guys would know better than I, but at least this past weekend, it was really dead till about 9:30. Would it help? And I don't know if the rest of the board would agree, but would it help if you opened at 9 and gave us some time on Thursday? And, people come up till 2, but if they closed at 1, people would come at 1. Is there a way to shift the hours? And I'm not expecting an answer right now, but is this something you can think about that may help?
The request that I got too, I think people in the winter, their kids are running around, they've got sports, it's hard to make it there on a Saturday. And they're finding that their garbage is piling up. So probably you say, I think between all of us, we probably heard from each person who goes there,
I have a response for you. If a constituent calls you and complains, or we're using the word complaints, if they make a request,
Register a
it doesn't sound like a
concern.
complaint, it sounds like we'd like more hours. I'm
Right.
going to characterize it in the positive, not necessarily the negative. And they say to you, I wish they could be open, we could be open more hours or one day during the week. Would it be inappropriate to suggest to them, well, to ask them, how much, you say the garbage is piling up. I just told you that if, we're going to live up to our contract, so we're going to be open those days. I think we've got 2 more years left on the contract for that period of time. So I'm going to talk about reducing the usage at the transfer station, not increasing it. And if you said to them, how much do you bring over to the transfer station? Do you bring a bag a week? And if they say yes, then you're in a position to say, for just about the same price, they'll pick it up at the curb and we'll give you the cans.
I don't
it's
really
odd.
feel comfortable being in the position of selling your services.
No, you don't have to sell my service. I mean, you
But
could tell, why don't you,
Actually, there are people who also don't want trash cans at the end of their driveway. They have long
Exactly.
driveways, it's a personal choice.
Okay.
So I'm responding to concerns that I've heard from our constituents.
And I understand the very small margin of workability for you guys on how much you make and how much it costs you to do that. But is it not true, or is it my understanding that you guys are getting a benefit of being there as well because you're able to hold things there and transfer things there that helps your company as well? And that was part of the reason why we entered into this at the level that we did.
The
So I
skip
think
storage
that
and
you
the-
guys are getting some benefit as well, if
Yes,
I'm not mistaken.
well, let's talk about that for 2 seconds. And I think it's important when you think about our contract to please think of the entire agreement, not just 1 or 2 elements of it. Mr. Gelb was involved, I think, directly in the discussions, as were you, Bruce. We do not, Royal Carding, Welsh Sanitation, none of our companies transfer any waste at your facility. None. We are allowed to park 2 trucks there.
Yeah.
And I believe we're allowed to have a few containers there. Do we have some empty containers?
A number of them.
Right. I'm not saying
Right.
I
I'm
don't know,
against that.
What I'm
not saying
saying
I'm
is-
opposed to that. I'm saying that there's a benefit on both sides.
Without
That's all
that
I'm
benefit,
saying.
and I don't know if you recall this, Mr. Gelb, or you do, Bruce, but one thing we said is if we're not able to have that usage at the facility with this kind of traffic, it would make no sense for us because of all of the attendant costs, not just the direct labor cost, to provide the service consistently, reliably, every week, every month, every year. So, yes, we do park a couple of trucks there. That's the benefit. But that was all part of the original program.
Yeah, and we're fine, and we're on board with that. One question
If I let me interrupt. Mr. Gelb, yes, we will look at reducing hours on a Saturday, changing hours on a Saturday, and look at the viability of having a man there on a Thursday.
Good.
That's what you.
That's all we're
We're
asking.
gonna look at it, and it's very simple.
That's fine.
That's great. Thank
We'll
you.
get back to you in a week, less than a week.
Perfect.
And we'll have an answer for you.
And I personally-
Let me raise a couple of other things. One, as you know, riding through Rhinebeck, there's an election campaign.
There is?
I've heard something about that. I think there's been a tradition where each party will pick up their signs right after the election, and we would bring them to the transfer station. When the town ran it, there was no charge for taking these signs and there's metal stands. I don't know if you have a policy on
I don't see a
campaign.
problem with that.
No problem.
Okay, so we could bring
It
that
just helps
without
clean
charge.
up.
Can't we wait till the outcome of the election?
I get.
Joe, wait, Joe,
Two other
Only from the
things.
conservative.
I signed mine and sold them on eBay, so if he wanted an idea other than getting rid of them in a garbage can, it might be.
Sell them on
I
eBay?
had two other things. One, you have a dumpster for glass and bottles. That was very filled up, and people had a hard time dumping things in it without it falling out. I don't know how frequently you change that dumpster, but maybe you can look at that, and maybe the guy who was there could change it if he could drive a truck there. I think
That's a valid issue.
I use the transfer station myself, and I've had great treatment there, and a lot of help, and I've never had any issues there.
I just have one question for the record, and then it's 173 customers on average a week?
Yes, ma'am.
About what percentage are from Rhinebeck, the town and village? Do you have any sense of that?
Check IDs.
Are other people oh, so you don't,
We don't.
Right.
Basically, you see the same people. I'm up there occasionally, not as much as I was in the beginning, but you basically see the same people, it's the same residents. And one thing I did want to add when I'm speaking, Mr. Gallo, you see a lot of people coming in with bags and boxes. 90% of that material is recyclable material. We don't charge for it. It's not trash, it's not MSW. So, yeah, there are multiple people come in, and you get a lot of residents that come in and use the service and don't bring their garbage. I don't know what they do with it, but the town offers the recycling. With that big dump it, we don't question it. But there is a tremendous amount of recycling flowing through that facility.
Let me just note that the gentleman who was there this past weekend is a former Major League Baseball player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So if anybody wants to talk about baseball, they can go to the transfer station. And as I say, the people you've had there are very friendly, and they are very helpful. And we do, at least I think, and I'm sure I'm speaking for the rest of the board, we do compliment you on the way you're running it.
And John Lamb went to the World Series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So he's a big night for him tonight. I'm going to call him on the way home and talk to him about the game so he can give me my tips.
Thank you, and that'd be
Thank
great.
you.
We're looking forward if you can give us a
thanks
response.
for coming in.
Bruce, I'll be
We would contact,
Can you
Yeah, work through.
give
Bruce.
us the, when you're going to change the rates, can you run it by the board?
Take one of those and pass it down.
I got that email today.
Yeah, well, it was posted Saturday, and
Well, I don't think it was ever really part of our contract. We weren't even doing e-waste when we did.
right, but it says if you're going to change the fee schedule, then you got to come to the board. Yeah.
We had a lot of big issues.
Okay.
There's a lot of legislation on it. We should look into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, that was it for presentations, right? Nothing else? So liaison reports, anybody have any comments?
I got two. One of them is this week, the next beaver pipe goes in up at the landfill. So we hope to hear a swoosh. And Vanderbilt Cove, we had a meeting with the committee last week. Shelley and I met with them to go over the final terms for the financing, going from short-term to long-term. There were also some issues about how the town boards had managed the Cove district over the years, and there were some allegations of misuse, and so we went through that. We think we've got that pretty well settled, but we're now at the point where we can do a budget for the year. But
Fantastic.
there's still a lot of misinformation out there on that. So
What do you mean
Do
misinformation?
you think we need to have them in for a town board meeting? Did you feel like you got it resolved? Were there issues valid?
Well, we gave them all of the vouchers. And they came back and they said all the vouchers look fine, except for there was one that was cited mowing, $5,900 for 3 months. And we think it's being misread, but we haven't gotten to that point yet, because we can't figure out how we would pay $5,900 for mowing for, 3 months. That down.
It's like a year, yeah.
It's probably the whole town's bill.
Yeah, it's something, or it could be the voucher number.
Okay.
So we have things like that. The real issue there is just that there was so much bad blood for so many years. I don't think it's going to go away. We did also talk about turning this over to the county, the possibility of that, and they want to check with other sewer districts that the county is taking care of right now. But we talked about doing that, and I let them know.
Is that our decision or their decision?
It's ours. It's our district. So. But we try to involve them.
Yes, we would want to work together, of course.
The county had approved it in the past. I had met with them, and the board for the county board for the water waste committee did approve taking on the project, but they were pending, waiting for us. But that was years ago, so
Right.
we have to reapproach that again.
Yeah, I got
Somebody else?
the guy that we're supposed to talk to.
Okay.
I think John gave him to me.
Yeah. So okay. Anything else?
You had another one, Bruce?
No, I think I'll shut up.
What about the dog park? Want to say something about that? Or you all
Woof.
done? Okay.
See you on Saturday.
Anybody else? So I understand the Northern Dutchess Caregivers is going to be closing up their volunteership. They usually,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
for the Northern Dutchess Caregivers, they provide transportation for seniors to medical appointments. When I helped to create our transportation program, I tried to avoid using our service for that because that would compete with their service. So unfortunately, they've fallen on difficult times, and our service is still providing a good service, and maybe it's something we could pick up in the future. So something we should consider for our budget is to help to maybe support our seniors who need transportation to medical appointments. It's certainly something that we can improve our transportation service on. So anyways, let's
How
consider
many
that.
seniors a week do we take care of with our van?
I don't know numbers. It's at least 6 per day, and they go one
Twice a
day
day?
to, well,
I mean,
no.
twice a week.
Once it goes to Stop and Shop, it's scheduled to go to Stop and Shop. The other time it's scheduled to come to the village or to the library. But what ends up happening is the drivers pretty much accommodate these people to do whatever they need to do locally. So they are committed to helping them continue this, and there are people who rely on this for the lifestyle now. So there is definitely room for growth on it. The van is probably, we've had it since 2010.
5 years?
Since 2010, implemented. It doesn't use much mileage, but these things definitely need to be considered for replacement, so it might be something we should consider towards a capital plan for the future. But anyways, as far as the seniors, we should certainly not let that go and maybe build off of it.
How would we administer it if we grow it?
It's administered pretty
By
much
the clerks?
through the clerks,
Yeah.
pretty much by itself,
So would that-
through the
we would-
drivers.
we would-
And there were people willing to volunteer to take calls for it.
How many drivers do we have, Tom?
I think we have 5 right now. We had more. I think one, some passed away. So, but we have at least 5.
Maybe when I'm off the town board, I'll have time to
Sure.
to do that.
What is the usage? We track usage?
Well, we used it for Stop and Shop once a week at least.
No, but I mean, how many people?
We have it all. There's a white binder in there, and it has the purple logo, the van on it.
Right.
And it indicates everybody who rides each day and the driver. And sometimes they go to different places. One year we took it to Hurley for St. Patrick's Day event, which the passengers seem to want to go to. So it's available for different events. But, you know, there's definitely room for growth if we wanted to. Now that the caregivers are dismantling, it certainly is a lot more use
Right.
to be used for. So
How many days a week do the caregivers function?
I think they just go whenever they have
They
somebody
went
in
whenever
need.
there was an appointment.
So it sounds like a great idea to do it. I just think we have to be mindful of how we would administer something that's exponentially more,
Yeah. Right.
bigger service.
And, yeah,
Well, you
They
know, who and how.
transported people in their own cars.
right.
The drivers would pick up the people and take them to the hospital or the doctor's appointment or Vassar or.
It's too bad they're
Yeah.
dismantling.
And not in the van?
No, just in their own car. Like you would call me and I would come pick you up and take you to a doctor's appointment, and they scheduled it all on their own.
This was this organization that is folding up, but we would use the van for that.
Right. If we wanted to expand the services. But
I mean,
it
you
would-
have to look into it. You know, we
Yeah.
could, there's a Center for the Aging at the hospital, which I'm employed at, by the way, which would be able probably to work with something on that. So that's something that we'd have to look into if we wanted to get involved in it more. We probably need more volunteers and so on, but something to consider for the seniors, since the caregivers are dismantling, so. Anyways, that's that. Cemetery, we of course approved the green space last week and signed the map on that, so we have the green cemetery for natural burial, that's approved, and the map is,
And plots are available for sale.
right, it's registered, and we're ready to go with that, so. Veterans Day is coming up on the 11th, right, Wayne? We have a ceremony at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock? 11 o'clock at the cemetery. It's a great event. Speaking of veterans, there's also the schools having their veterans ceremony on the 9th, I think, right?
Correct.
That's Friday the 9th at 9?
Friday morning, 9 a.m.
9 a.m. at the auditorium at the high school. So it's a great event, and all are welcome to that. Anybody else have anything else? Item G is public comment period. Anybody in the public want to make a comment on anything? Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew Shepard. I'm a resident of Rhinecliff, and I know you've been entertaining the idea of a grant for some sort of wastewater treatment facility, and I'd like to request that you have a public hearing before that's broached at all, because
That was the Victor Cornelius
Yeah.
presentation, yeah.
because you know, you have to start at ground zero. Where's the data to explain what the problem is, and then to explore various solutions and costs and things before you get a grant writer who wants to make money writing a grant and a guy who likes to dig trenches to big trenches. We have to really fully evaluate where you're going with this before any decisions made. So I'd just like to request that you have a public hearing before anything is entered into. If you want to do something with the stormwater, that's been discussed, I think, at length with Kathy and the town many times, and I think that Kathy could give great guidance on to what to do with that. It's not as big an issue, but with any kind of wastewater treatment, there's a lot to be discussed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Good evening, Supervisor Tout, board members. Linda Murray, Town of Rhinebeck resident. A month ago, September 23rd, I came before you to say how the Thompson-Mazzarella Park resolution adopting a statement of consistency violated the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and that you couldn't in good faith accept the planning board recommendation to proceed with the seeker resolution before you. Mr. Gelb was kind enough to return my phone call that I made to him and he reviewed the resolution beforehand. He analyzed what was before you. He even asked Mr. Trimble at the meeting, what exactly are these, quote, findings that you're asking us to agree to adopt? Thank you, Mr. Gelb. The deficiencies in the planning board's recommendation prompted you to have the matter tabled at Mr. Gelb's prompting while the town board sought legal counsel. It was refreshing. About 2.5 weeks later, on October 11th, the town board received correspondence from an attorney representing concerned citizens outlining the seeker violations on the project. The letter put the town board on notice that the action of the village and town planning boards asked you to take violated state law. You heeded the advice, you pulled the resolution from the agenda, and you sought further legal advice. Great work again, town board. On that same date, October 15th, I came before you and I sought to address a few issues. One, I raised a conflict of interest issue. My concerns stem from the fact that Winnicke received money from the town in exchange for an easement that was placed on the property, and that the Rec Park Committee's design was being led by the president of Winnicke. I suggested that any board members who were also on the Winnicke board may have a conflict of interest, requiring recusal. I also raised divergent interests on the project, open space versus recreational playing fields. Even though easily coexistable...
Can I interrupt you for a second so we don't lose the train of thought? I told you at that point that I am a member of the Winnicke board. I asked you if you thought I should recuse myself.
I don't recall you asking me, Mr. Gelb.
I said I would consider it. That is my recollection. And I heard nothing.
If you had asked me, I would have said recusal.
You think I should recuse myself?
I do.
From,
I do.
I'll consider it.
I also raised divergent interests on the project, open space versus recreational playing fields. Even though easily coexistable, sufficient fields had not been added to the map. Winnicke Land Trust has a very respectable mission statement to preserve open space and expand walking trails, and they're responsible for preserving the beauty of our town and our county. And Sally as well for taking care of our town of Rhinebeck and making it look so beautiful. But this has to be balanced against the needs in our rec park and must not become the rec park's mission statement when families have asked for more rec fields. Notwithstanding, Phase 1 does not include infrastructure for the playing fields, drainage, or for the playing fields or recreational improvements. Phase 1 costs haven't been revealed, but the master plan calls for $1.7 million in spending. I do know at the last planning board meeting that Phase 1 on the master plan said the pavilion would cost $125,000, whereas it was revealed it's up to $320,000 for Phase 1. My concerns were only addressed to the town board to the extent that, as you noted, Mr. Gelb, that you were a Winnicke board member. And as I indicated, I think that you should have recused yourself.
That's not what you said that night. This is a new position, but I will consider it.
I don't think that there's any room for any other debate. I actually did some research on it, and I have a copy of a state comptroller decision that directly addresses this issue.
Oh, what's the issue? You're talking about recusal?
Yes.
Oh.
This isn't a personal attack. I think that you responded wonderfully to me when I inquired about the project. I don't think that...
We can discuss that later, just continue with it.
No, I don't consider it a
I'm just responding.
attack. I don't consider it a personal attack.
So anyway, in that, and please, nothing I'm saying, please take personally. I just wish to state the facts. In this particular opinion, it was a school board member. The comptroller ruled could not participate in matters regarding a not-for-profit foundation which he or she served as a board member on. Continuing, at the same meeting, I'm sorry, unfortunately, by voting and participating, it voided the action of the town board at the special meeting last week. And I did research this. This is Tuxedo Conservation versus Town Board of Tuxedo, 69 AD 2nd 320. It's a second department case. I asked at this same meeting, what will you do at the rec park? While young families are watching, especially as you noted, Election Day is around the corner, you created the park committee. As our governing body, you heard the public outcry over the past year. Will you direct the committee to add a note on the map that future playing fields will be developed at our rec park? It's the mere stroke of a pen. It will ensure our children and young families' needs are met, and it'll demonstrate that our town board listens to its constituents. I'm sorry, but verbal acknowledgments by Winnicky at a town meeting are just not binding. If the rec committee, the park committee, won't put it on the plan now, why would your constituents believe that it'll happen in the future? Every campaign talks about open government. I'm sorry to say that the special meeting that was held was not representative of how open government works. I've attended over 24 public meetings in the past year on this particular project. That doesn't include other meetings I've attended regarding this project. I don't believe I've missed one public meeting other than the one that addressed the special meeting scheduled in the middle of the day. Specifically, I've publicly addressed this town board regarding the seeker concerns. To my surprise, I learned the town board scheduled that special meeting when working folks like me could not attend. And yes, I've spoken out publicly against the necessity of and the propriety of you holding this meeting. Several of you have confronted me about my public criticism, but my criticism is purely factual. It's the first time you invited your town attorney to speak on the project. The town planner was invited. The town planning board attorney was invited to attend. The park committee was here, and evidently certain planning board members were invited, but not the entire planning board was notified. Indeed, my husband, who's a member of the planning board, was not notified by anyone other than me that this special meeting was going on. No agenda was provided ever, despite standard operating procedures of this town, and as such, the public didn't know what the special meeting was for. As it turns out, the meeting was to discuss precisely the seeker issues that I've raised with you publicly with the town attorneys. Issues I personally included were the septic. It brings me no joy to report this. It's not how open government works. It's not transparency. It's not holding yourselves accountable for quality and vigor in your representation of our community. It's not keeping the public informed of issues. It's not effective in allowing residents to voice their concerns. And it's not welcoming the public or encouraging public attendance at important meetings. It's exclusive. It's silencing dissension, and it's acting like a closed government. And again, this brings me no joy to say. And so I'm constrained to ask you who's running our town. Winnicky's president announced at their gala that great strides were making to ensure trails and open space were secured at the rec park. Our town planning board attorney is rendering legal advice as a Winnicky board member, and our rec park is named after Winnicky's president. Incidentally, I'm a Burger Hill steward. I have great respect for Winnicky, but there's a time and a place. The town board voted to have this project go forward at the special meeting, and a Winnicky board member, Mr. Gelb, voted on the project. I believe that made the action of the board invalid. Our rec park is being transformed into a park. Why is there no baseball, soccer, lacrosse, field, stormwater drainage infrastructure being done in phase 1? Tonight you're going to approve a $30,000 engineering fee for the pavilion. Why not use some of that money allocated to the pavilion, $320,000 for phase 1, towards the infrastructure for the future fields? You have the power, board, to direct the committee as the body you created to put something in writing on the map. They work for you. Will you exercise that power? Will you issue a directive, or will you let Winnicke tell you and Rhinebeck residents how our town will be run at our only rec park? The children and the people's needs should bear equal, if not more, importance than open space and walking trails at our rec park. Please act. I want to believe that you want to do the right thing, because friends of mine speak well of most of you. We share common friends. But the fact remains that talk is cheap around Election Day, and actions speak louder than words. I hope you show us that you're willing to act and direct the park committee to add a note to the map. Ensure our future needs are secured in writing. And please, don't take anything I say personally. I've been doing this for over a year now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want a copy of the written, do you have a copy, Linda, for the clerk, please? Thanks. Any public comments? All right, items for business. A resolution approving abstract 10V vouchers V1033, V1057 for $23,022.93.
Motion.
A second. Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
I have two questions. Just
For item one?
Yeah. A workplace no-show fee and a Rhinebeck rentals for $556.
The no-show, I think Kathy could talk to, and the Rhinebeck Rentals 556, I think is for the end of summer, splash tank and
Okay.
all that
It just
kind of
wasn't
stuff.
on there.
Bounce
Thank you.
house.
The no-show fee was when we had to call somebody, when there was an appointment that was made, and I had to call them to cancel that appointment.
Okay.
When we had work schedules, there was a nominal fee for that.
Thank you. That was the dunk tank bouncy slide for the end of the,
Was it?
yeah. Not drunk tank.
Oh, but we're gonna get one of those.
Thank you.
All right, so all in favor, that's all
Aye.
already approved. Item two is a resolution for appointment for the Vandenberg Cove Sewer District for James Baker.
Motion? A second.
Any discussion?
Ellen is resigning, and her husband is applying. We still have one other opening on Vanderbilt Cove.
So all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item three is a resolution accepting the bid for the engineering service of the Thomas Thompson Sally Mazzarella Park. A motion and second.
Motion?
Second?
And Joe, I think you are recusing yourself, or?
Let's say on this one, I will not vote either way. I will consider the suggestion that was made. I do feel a little bit trapped because I did ask Ms. Murray at that public meeting, and we can look at the videotape of that meeting as to what transpired. I do remember Sally Mazzarella saying, after I said, I don't recollect I was ever party to a discussion at Winnicke about the trail easement, and she said, well, that would have been in front of the Trails Committee, and that's why I was not involved. So I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. It's a long way of saying I will certainly look at it. I don't bear any ill will one way or the other. I think it's important that people should not get into a position where somebody can question the propriety of them sitting on an issue where they may have a personal involvement. Appearance of impropriety, I think, is an important standard that we should upkeep. So for this purpose, till I have a chance to look at this, I will not vote.
So we have a motion and a second. So all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
4-2 in favor, is so moved. Item 4 is a resolution granting the peddler's permit. That would be for Vigiano. Is there a motion and
Motion?
second?
A second.
I'm thrilled to have him back. I'm sorry that there was a gap in he's great, and it's Hungry Dog Frank's. You can see him at the intersection. He's a great guy, great hot dogs. So I'm glad we're all on
I'm sorry it
board.
happened like this.
Yeah.
It was a misstep, I think.
It's good he's back.
Do you know which intersection?
9
9
and
and
9G.
9G.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 5 is a resolution scheduling the budget hearing for 2014 town budget. Should we include that to be a possible tax cap override hearing?
Yes.
We should include that just in case.
Yes.
Okay.
Based on what we heard this afternoon.
Looks like we're,
So we should set that date for, what is it? But it already is set. November what? 12th?
This is a town board meeting, right, John?
Yes.
And normally what you're supposed to do is the Thursday after Election Day to release your budget. And this is the public hearing on the budget. That's why we wanted to have the special meeting this week to release the budget, so there's plenty of time for people to look at it between now and the 12th.
we're not quite ready to release it, or does it matter?
Well,
It's public information no matter what.
Well, but we have to have the document, and, we just got the latest draft of it, but I don't know
we just
what.
got changes.
Pardon me?
We just got new information.
We can release it, you're saying just release it in progress? just
As a
put it
work
out
in
there.
progress.
Sure.
Oh, that may
So-
just confuse people, but
Well-
we can decide that. We have to schedule another meeting, a workshop, to go over the drafts that were just given out
What are we
today.
looking at? What day?
Well, the 12th is the date.
That's our deadline for
You're right.
releasing, but we're going to meet between now and then,
We'll
right?
have to, yeah.
Okay, so what are we looking at?
Well, let's approve this date first of all. So we have a motion and second, I think, right? To include,
Did we make a motion?
no,
Motion.
second. All in favor, aye.
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 So moved, and that does include the tax cap override, potentially. 12th, Tuesday, the day after.
I can't hear you. If
John, you have the sheet on you from?
You should have
I've got it here.
microphone.
Do you want to,
Sarah Emboden from The Observer. Just here, because I just thought you said the 12th, but I thought by law you're supposed to have the public hearing by the 7th. I could be wrong, or
Sure.
they schedule it.
You
and
might be
then
right,
It
but-
can be adjourned until the 12th. That was my understanding, and I could be totally wrong.
Cute.
Mostly just to
No,
make
that's
sure.
what I said. By the Thursday after Election Day, that's when you're
The
supposed to do
7th.
it. But you can adjourn it day by day.
Right, exactly, but you have to have it by
Well,
the 7th,
you can set it and adjourn it, right?
I guess.
So,
So but you're
Right,
gonna,
my
you're saying you're
my
setting it for the
calendar's set-
12th? That's what I'm asking.
we don't have 5 days before
Right,
we're behind schedule.
right.
I think, don't we have 5 days before that?
You got to release it first.
Oh,
my calendar says for the 7th, public hearing on budget, so maybe that's the start of it. And I think what you're saying is we got to just start a meeting,
Yeah,
but
right.
it can be adjourned.
And
Right.
it would adjourn it, right. But I thought you had to have it by the 7th, like a first one. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I was just wondering.
No, you're right. That's the Thursday.
Yeah, that's why it's in my calendar. So
so,
we're scheduling at least the start of the budget hearings for the 7th.
No.
What about Monday, the 4th? What, Bruce?
We have to issue the preliminary budget so that the public can look at it, and then we schedule a meeting for them to come in and give us their input. Then we change it, if we need to, based on the input. So those are three things we're doing. The public hearing, we are trying to schedule for the 12th. We are trying to release it by next Thursday.
Got it, okay.
And that's why I'd asked you folks if we could schedule it for this week, get some sessions in this week to get it out.
But the public hearing does have to be held by the 7th.
It has to be held by the 7th.
It has, the public hearing
Right.
has to be held by the 7th.
Right, we should
But
start
we can
it.
reschedule it, right?
You have to adjourn.
Yeah, we can. All right, never mind.
Because I think all they're saying is that we have to have a meeting that will start the process. If we could adjourn it,
Yeah, and that's
till
exactly
the
what
12th.
what the schedule says. However, we are not in a position to hold to that schedule at this time. So what we're doing is we're trying to give the public fair warning that we're going to do it on the 12th. We'll go through the other stuff. Do you want us to have a public hearing when we're not going to have it? We'll meet and adjourn.
It just sounds to me, okay, yeah, great.
I think that's what she's
I'm just saying, if
I
you
know.
motion to set it for the 12th, to me, that sounds like
You're starting it.
you're breaking the law, in this sense. I'm not making any, do you know what I'm saying? Like, because the 12th is 5 days after the 7th?
I think procedurally, we have to have a meeting on the 7th.
I think you
adjourn
have
it,
to. That's just my understanding from
Open it
reading
and
it.
close it and adjourn to the 12th. So let's set a
Yeah,
meeting
right.
for the 7th.
Exactly.
so should we?
No, wait. The law says day-to-day adjournment.
Right, yeah.
So we're going to have to meet every single day if we do it this way.
You can set it for the 12th if you want, it's just
Well, I think that's what we have to do then, Bruce. If that's what we have to follow the law, even though it seems ridiculous that we have to
Yeah.
meet every day and adjourn,
Well,
but maybe we can
let-
actually accomplish something in those days that we meet.
Okay.
rather
Let's
than just
schedule it for the
adjourning.
7th, ask our town attorney what the process is for adjourning it.
7th is Thursday, what time? Can we do it
Noon?
during the day?
No, we can't do it during the day. It's got to be at night.
6:45?
It's got to be at night when people can get here.
Okay,
6:45?
6 o'clock you
That's
want to
bad,
do?
I can't be here in the night. I have to leave at
You
5.
got to be here every night until we're ready.
I can be here Friday the 8th.
You have to bring us pajamas.
I'll get you those Snuggies, or whatever they're called.
Oh,
So what time are we setting it for? 6:45, 6?
Doesn't have to be at night. It could be like
Let's say
4,
noon.
4.
4? Okay.
Noon.
4 on the 7th?
You want to open it at noon? We can open it at.
Okay,
What's
let's
your-
do noon. And then if we have to adjourn, I could even stay and work for hours, but if we're just going to adjourn, then let's at least set it for then and see where we're at and get some advice from council. It seems ridiculous.
Oh, wait a minute.
No,
If the
it's-
purpose of this is to hear from the public,
Correct.
seems to me we ought to make it in the evening.
Right.
That's fine, I just won't be able to be here in the evening on the 7th. So, but if we want to call it for then, I'm fine with that.
What time on the 7th?
We're meeting to adjourn and reschedule it, so we need a quorum. I can't access my calendar for some reason in this tech hole, but
5 o'clock?
sure.
5?
5 at 7?
5 o'clock?
5 PM on the 7th?
I think, yeah, it's fine.
Now, what if the public does come then and wants to make some comments?
Sure, we
Everyone
take
would
a-
be able to hear what they have to say at that point,
We could have it.
if anyone did come?
Or we open the meeting and we move to reschedule it if we're not
Okay.
ready.
Okay,
And we'll take minutes. So we have a motion and second to hold a first public hearing on the budget November 7th at 5 PM.
Will the budget be released before then?
Yeah, I hope so.
No.
We could, why not?
We're not ready.
So we're going to have a public hearing before the budget is released.
I don't understand why you guys are saying it's not released when it's just, it's public.
No,
It's
we
public.
have to issue the preliminary, we're in tentative, we haven't issued the preliminary budget yet, right?
I released a tentative budget.
Yeah, but not the preliminary.
We're now in preliminary mode.
But we haven't put it out for public review.
You can put it out any time when it's,
We need 5 days before the 7th to
But
get it out.
the
so we
board
can-
doesn't want it to go out. That's the problem.
We can get it out. It's not,
Bruce, it's not ready. When it's ready, we'll release it. There's no
or we release
magic
it
to
as is and we
Obviously, it'll
revise
probably
it.
be released before the hearing.
So, just so I understand, will the budget be released before the 11/7 public hearing?
Yes.
I would certainly think so.
5 days before.
And how will it be released, on the website?
And there'll be hard copies. There's always hard copies with the clerk.
And Bruce, you'll have added in the increase in the fire department budget by then and
Well, why don't we
all
discuss
of what we heard
whatever
tonight?
it is, Gina? I think we got to discuss it.
That's why I was trying to get
Before,
budget
right, that's
workshop
why I
with
think
the
we
board
need a
this week.
meeting at some point
So
this
what
week.
about Thursday?
I'm sorry, I can't access, nothing's opening up in here. for
What
me.
about this Thursday?
It's Halloween.
I know it's
Oh, it
Halloween.
is?
That's
We
appropriate,
did that-
isn't it?
We did that last year. We were working on Halloween last
We
year.
were, I know. We work more than people realize, I think.
oh my God.
I don't think we
Alright.
worked last Halloween. I remember going to a Halloween party Bruce had.
Do you mind, can we, do this through the clerk? I can't
Yeah,
access
okay.
my schedule.
All right.
I can't open anything.
I'm good with Friday or Thursday, Bruce, if that's helpful, or John.
You know,
Oh, no, Friday is not good.
Friday be too late.
Thursday's good. And Wednesday is actually, I could work on Wednesday.
How about Wednesday instead? Anybody, any
Okay?
opinions on that?
I
Wednesday?
can't
I
commit.
love Wednesday.
Okay, you like Wednesdays?
I would love Wednesday.
All right,
Or
so,
Friday.
well, let's start with Wednesday. How about that?
Wednesday, the
Give me-
30th.
I just can't open this. I'll come, as soon as I get home, I can.
What time?
And I'm free from noon to 8.
Okay.
Go figure.
What time works for you, Tom?
Wait a minute.
I'm so confused.
This Thursday's Halloween, not the 7th, okay?
Right,
You guys are,
that's correct.
we're talking about Thursday the 7th.
No, we're
No,
talking
no, we're
about a
talking
meeting
about this week.
Okay, but we have the hearing set for Thursday the 7th.
Right.
Exactly,
Okay,
but we need
all
a
right.
budget workshop before we
All right,
do that.
Okay,
We need a budget workshop so we can release the budget on the 1st, 5 days before, at least.
And so we can incorporate the numbers that we got tonight.
yeah.
So Wednesday, the 30th. Elizabeth, you're in limbo right now, but
I can't, I'm sorry, but I'm sure
I
it
can do
works.
any time from noon to 8.
Can we schedule it through the clerk then? And we'll.
Yeah, why don't we,
Okay, that's cool with me.
Yeah, is there a method by which the public could understand when that time frame is? So that
Right.
the public could be here? Because up until this point, the public workshops have not been.
They've been
I have
fully,
never-
They have
they've
been
been fully
noticed.
noticed.
Yeah, they
have
have.
the notice?
They all have.
But the one that comes around, like the village one, that lets you know what's gonna happen all the time, right? We send out our thing on Friday. That kind of thing.
Well, I can make Wednesday the 30th, if you're gonna do it in the evening.
What time?
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock?
Wednesday at 4?
10:30, 4 o'clock. And John, you'll notice that, right? All right.
4 o'clock on Wednesday.
Wayne, did you get that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So we need a motion and a second to have a budget workshop on October 30th
Motion.
at 4 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 So moved.
Gina, mumble aye.
Hi,
Said aye.
I'm
This is
sorry.
good.
Oh.
Okay, good.
Does that work for you?
I prefer later.
Well, I'll be here at 4. If you guys want to do it later, it's fine. But I gotta, we'll start at 4.
Okay,
All right.
good.
And Elizabeth, you'll let us, and then through John, and if we have to, we'll make it either later that day.
I'm sure I'm fine, I just can't open
yeah.
anything.
Item 6 is a resolution for the budget transfers and amendments.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Moving on for discussion items with logging fees.
Okay, logging fees, we have two issues right before us. We have a section in our comp plan that deals with logging. And as long as it's being done by a certified and licensed forester, and that there's an escrow for environmental review, people are allowed to log their land. We do have to have a fee in place. We don't have a fee in place. So we compared other towns, surrounding towns on this side of the river. 500 to 550 flat rate seems to be the norm. When I spoke to Michael Trimble about it, we went back and forth. We don't have a lot of huge parcels that are dealing with this. So we thought we would propose a $500 fee for up to 10 acres of the amount of land that they're logging, not how big their parcel is, but the amount of the logging area.
Who checks this? Who enforces it?
The zoning enforcement officer and the CAB, and there are file.
CAB?
The two that are proposed have been reviewed by, in one case, Hudsonia and the CAB, the other one so far just the CAB.
I don't know why the CAB is involved in this. They're advisory only. They're not an enforcement agency.
They're not enforcing, but they're giving their opinion on there's wetlands there. Jeff, could you help me on this one? Okay, but here, let me just continue for a second. So, we need to have a fee. The people who are doing logging say that that's totally in line with what they've paid in the past for other towns or villages. Any acreage above 10 that is being logged would be $10 per acre above that 500 fee for 10 acres or under. So that seemed to be a good starting point. We might have to do a law to incorporate that fee structure.
We might have to do we need a local law or?
We're looking into that. But in the meantime, we do have two people that have been waiting and waiting and waiting. And it behooves us to really allow them to do what they're trying to do. They're doing it legitimately. They're getting the trees assessed. They're getting the environmental.
What does logging mean? Does it mean, for instance, I have to remove some trees from my property. They're storm damaged. Is that logging?
No.
The logging, these two projects.
So that's all I've done on it, is try to get the fee structure settled.
They're part of the 480A exemption that they have to log within 10 years. So the two before the town now are part of that New York State. As far as why the CAB
This is
reviews
a tax
it,
exemption.
correct. And they're usually more than 10 acres, and these two cases are like 60, 70 acres. In the zoning code, the zoning officers, not required, but suggested in the code to send it to the CAB for review. And that's when we do our environmental review. So that's why the CAB is involved. We draw our maps, we do our usual review. We ask for Hudsonia or another biologist to come in and do their review, and it's been very successful, that process.
And it's paid for in escrow.
Yeah, the
That's not
Hudsonia
a
review
fee
is paid
for us.
for in escrow. The county gets 6% of the total proceeds from any kind of logging under 480A, the town doesn't get any. So there is divvying up of the proceeds. I would, suggest that the town gets something, because we do spend a lot of time on these reviews.
Thank you, Jeff.
If I'm correct, that you can only get the tax exemption if you have a registered forester come up with a plan to do this, and presumably that forester is doing some kind of environmental review that it makes sense to harvest these trees. I just wonder why we have to put layer on layer on layer of it. I'll have to look at the comp plan as to what it says.
Well, it's actually not layers. It's what the reviews do are, it's a more thorough review, because the DEC doesn't require the same kind of reviews like the town of Rhinebeck does. In respect to our local zoning, our 25-foot rules, our wetlands law. So it really is very helpful for the forester and the property owner to understand what the town requirements are. The DEC also asked the CAB to come forward and do these reviews, because the DEC don't have the manpower to get out into the field and do these reviews. That's why the DEC requires or asks that CACs become CABs, so that we can do these reviews.
Good evening, Kathy Kinsella, Town Highway Superintendent. I'm aware of the location on Enterprise Road that is seeking to log. I'm not aware of another location, or is that because the two?
New.
There's a brand new one? Okay, I'm not aware of that one at all. Just so that you know, part of the review also is when any applicant is looking, whether it's permanent or temporary, to have an access point with a town road, there needs to be permissions for that, permit for even a temporary driveway approval. The Enterprise Road applicant did come to the Highway Department and pay the fee for that review for the access. However, I do support very much that the town establish fees for the logging, because there are additional costs to the town beyond those kind of reviews. Although my review of the appropriateness of an access point for them to access to do the logging is one matter, there will be additional times that myself or Bob as our foreman or staff might have to go out and look at the road because of the wear and tear. These logging trucks are very heavy vehicles, and there's much more wear and tear that comes from their access point as they're going over a soft area, especially when you have springtime, and which is, I think, when they're looking to log, and everything is soft. So there's wear and tear for the town, and there's those of us who need to watchdog for the town's interests what's happening up there to be able to pursue anything or bring it to the attention or navigate any hurdles. So an application or a fee for this is absolutely in order to cover any and all the administrative costs. There may also be escrow might be something appropriate to set up for any sort of wear and tear issues. Again, that wouldn't really be the driveway issue, because it wouldn't be a matter of completing the driveway or not, but that would be something that somebody, and I'm not sure what body that is, if that's the planning board, the zoning board, or who, should probably have some sort of escrow if there is damage going on that the town could access. So that's something to please think about.
One question I had about logging, because I know nothing about it, but in most cases, is it a one-time thing, or is it something that goes on year to year in year? And do we have that fee annually, or?
Gina, it's one time, but it takes a long period of time to access. Somebody could theoretically be logging for an entire season.
Or a couple of years, could they not be?
Yeah, they can go on for many years. They set it up in stages. They'll have different stands that they harvest at different times.
I've seen that before. So I wonder about that. How do we address that? Is it a one-time fee, an annual fee?
I pulled 4 different logging permits off the web for, I think, like Claverack, just some Southern Columbia and Northern Dutchess. Some of them are yearly, some of them are 10 years. Hyde Park is a 10-year logging. we may want to talk to our land use people about that.
Well, I think we have to do it sooner rather than later, because the two that are before us right now have done everything that we've asked them to do. They have no problem doing escrow. They have no problem. They've done everything right. They've gone to the highway department. And so we really need to make it happen, whether we have to talk to our...
We need a workshop, and I think we've got to get together with our planning board, zoning board, land use attorney, and get a recommendation. There's a big latitude of, from what I've seen, of different programs. It just depends on, what does our comp plan mandate us? How much oversight do we want? Do we want to allow 10 years of logging? That seems like a long time. Maybe we want it in smaller chunks.
Well, I thank the board for considering this, and I would, suggest that you look at the 480A, and there are different stewardship plans, to answer your question, Joe. Some are very intense. You can be certified as a green forest, and there are some that are just cookie cutter and real fast, and it really depends on the environment where the logging's done. That's why the review needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. So we'll continue to look into it as quickly as we possibly can.
Do you want to get together a workshop?
I suppose just call John Lyons and also...
What their proposed start date is, or Jeff, do you know?
The one on Enterprise, I'm not sure.
They're waiting for us. They're ready to go.
I mean, our recommendations...
Yeah.
Our recommendation is when everything freezes, and that's when they should go out and do this.
Okay, that's all I've got.
All right, I think it does have to be a law, though, since we are charging a fee. But we'll ask John.
What did you say, Tom?
I think it has to be a law to charge a schedule, have a schedule fee. So.
Now, as far as, the next one is mine as well, this Acadia payroll. They came and gave us an overview. They were really, really helpful and took a lot of time, and they prepared this. I don't expect anyone to read through it now, but read through it before our next meeting. After we had, and Kathy was there, Kim and Shelley were fantastic. We learned a lot about our needs, and I don't know what ADP, what's it called?
Payroll?
Yeah,
the payroll?
That one. But then Shelley came back with somebody else that's local that might have an alternative solution. Acadia might not be as much of a savings as we thought.
Is there a time savings for our bookkeeping
Well, that's
department?
the big issue.
Okay.
It's a huge issue, because if it's not enough of a time saver, and they're still having to do all the data collection, and then just sending the data over to have a paycheck cut, it's not enough. But there are certain aspects of it that were very helpful and could help us very much. But now that that's been opened, everyone's looking at it more creatively and really focusing on it. So we're going to get a few more people in to give us some more input, and that's where we are. So this is
Then
one.
we're going to bid it formally.
Right, exactly. Before anything would happen, it would be bid, of course. But we're going to have a few companies to look at, and this being one.
ADP's been in twice. They met with Kim once, and Kim and Shelley on the follow-up meeting.
And you were there for the meetings?
I was there for one.
Yeah.
And there's some...
What's your sense?
I don't want to go into it.
Okay.
So this would be, we've allowed some money in additional help for the bookkeeping department. It would either be this or something else. That's that lump sum that we're leaving there?
Yeah, but it's... I mean, the rates are interesting. What this really does is it frees up some time in that office where they can do the other things that aren't getting done.
Right.
If they
If
can
the
indeed,
time
yeah.
gets
If
freed
it
up.
saves them time, yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why I don't want to discuss it.
Okay.
I'll explain to you some other time.
Okay, now
Okay.
you're-
Thank you.
Cool.
Let me just say one more thing, and that was the Eleanor Roosevelt Center at Valkill wanted to thank us for hosting, well, Rhinebeck had hosted the Eleanor Roosevelt Valkill Medal Ceremony on October 13th, and that was at the Astor Courts. It was the first time they had been out of the Valkill in 26 years, and they just wanted to thank our community for being so accommodating to be a part of their ceremony, and that was a great day for us. And Kathleen Durham, the executive director, wanted to express her thanks to the town board and our
They
community.
had to find another venue because of the government sequester, or
Yeah,
the shutdown.
government shutdown.
That's why.
I didn't get the award this year, but they're looking at me next year. So. Did you get that? All right, motion and second to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All in favor, aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming in.